presented by Dano's Seasoning. Yum yum, get you some.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Sunbelt Syndicate from the first kick to the last pitch, as we're now going to say, right, Marv?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so we're going to try something a little new out this year, maybe this week specifically, I guess we should say. But, Wednesday is a little too long to wait to talk about reactions, how your team fared, how everything went for you this weekend, whether it was good, bad, or ugly. So Marv and Seth are typically going to jump on tonight. It's just going to be Marv and myself. It looks like Seth's going to be under the weather a little bit, so maybe he'll join us next week. But we're going to just get going, be real interactive. So if you've got questions, comments, concerns, whatever you want to talk about, this is your show for that. Obviously, Wednesday's typically like that too. But before we get going full speed here, we do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Dano's Seasoning, Fanplex Graphics. They've got some posters for both App State and Troy specifically right now. Be sure to check them out. And also Dubby Energy. We'll be running those promos down below as the show continues. And as always, obviously brought to you in part by collegefootballdogs.com, who continues to pump out the articles and keeping you aware of the going-ons around the entire landscape of college football. But before we dive in any further, Marv, how are we doing tonight, man?
Man, college football's back. How could you not be doing great? Fun, full day of football yesterday, wrapping it up with a weird Sunday night game tonight, but I'm doing awesome, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm glad to be doing it. And hey, Marv, guess who's shown up first in the comment section?
I could have guessed. What's up, Artie Cat? Hey, real quick before we get started, the intro page, that Raging Cajun logo with the alligator.
Yeah,
it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, they definitely need to make that switch there. Just buy in fully to that alligator logo. It's seemingly fitting. I think we've talked about it once on the baseball show, but per capita, the state of Louisiana has more gators in it than the state of Florida. So when anyone wants to say anything about Florida's the real Gators, well, maybe in name because you had it first technically, but the Cajuns still go by the Cajuns. They can just use an alligator for a mascot. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's a cool logo.
Our favorite hockey team uses a what for their mascot?
Oh, a pig.
Right, and they're the Hurricanes. So it doesn't matter what your name is, and your mascot doesn't have to be the same thing. It works. People love that stupid pig.
Hamilton, right?
Well, that's the real life one, but the
Stormy.
Yeah, the suited one is Stormy. Yeah, but yeah, Hamilton the pig was the real life pig. They literally took around the arena in a wagon. So
yeah,
there you go again.
Tailgate during the playoffs. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure you could take a real life gator around in a wagon. Why not?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm sure nobody would be upset about that.
No one at all.
Artie says pair of boots is awesome. I'm not sure of the reference, Marv. Do you get that reference there?
I think he's talking about alligator boots.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yes, because I got it. Okay. Very nice. I love to start off with a little dad joke there. We did some power rankings, TJ and I did, and maybe we'll have to start including you guys if we keep this going weekly. But you know what? You just want to start diving into these and we can talk about that kind of thing at the end?
Yeah,
we don't have any real structure here, folks. We're learning on the fly. We kind of literally decided we were going to do this fully early this morning?
Something like that.
We had talked about it, but we didn't make it official until like this morning. We're like, are we going to do this thing or not? So, we're going to go ahead and dive into this and bring us up to speed here. Let me see if I can. I saved us a bunch of time since this was the last second. It's going to be the same graphics for those of you who watched the show Wednesday, but now obviously we have scores to talk about. So this is the week 1 wrap up, and we're going to go in the order of the games were played. Technically, this game was on the schedule to start first, but the Coastal Carolina game started first because of the weather delay, but we're still going to keep it in this order here. So ULM jumping out, getting a win in their first home game of the season with a new head coach, a new quarterback, a whole bunch of new players on that roster against, what it was thought to be a pretty darn good FCS team coming in. And I think they showed it in this game, but I don't know. Were you overly impressed, concerned, anything that really stuck out to you in this one?
I mean, the game was tied in the third quarter. ULM scores the last 16 points. You said a lot of new players. Like, I think that's a pretty consistent theme for almost every Sunbelt school. The transfer portal giveth and taketh away. A lot of teams lost a lot of talent and had to bring in and backfill a whole bunch of stuff. But, Jacksonville State's a pretty solid team, right? And ULM probably, I think maybe they would have wanted to be a little bit more convincing. You wouldn't want to have to score the final 16 points to win against an FCS team at, your home opener. But, I don't take anything positive or negative away for the Warhawks out of this. I think it's probably exactly how it should have played out.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I don't know what ULM fan base like wildest expectations were, except for maybe that you come in and you see a little bit more from General Booty in this one.
Yeah.
I don't think I had a note there that I actually had a lot of the same notes that you did. It was tied, 14-14 very late before the what do we say, the depth and the talent kind of took over towards the end there when, it's just one team just can't quite keep up. But to me, General Booty didn't do anything to blow me away. He didn't do anything really wrong either. I wouldn't say. He wasn't asked to do a lot. I think he had 14 pass attempts for the entire game.
Yeah, I think it was 10 for 14 throughout the entire game, which is efficient. And also you got to wonder, a lot of schools, how much of your playbook are you going to show in week one if you don't have to? How much of your base defense are you running if you don't have to get exotic? I don't know. Like you said, I wasn't disappointed with their performance, wasn't impressed with their performance, probably exactly what it should have been for week one.
Yeah. I think maybe part of the game plan was to get Booty in there and comfortable and aware of what kind of offense they're truly going to run here, but also do some things to take the pressure off of him from having to win the game the first time out. So they ran Hardy very, very strongly up the middle a lot. Let's see if I had Ahmad Hardy carried the ball 19 times for 103 yards and a touchdown, which goes to show you two things. They seem to be like they're going to run heavily this year.
Yep.
Okay. But also probably leaning on that more because they're going up against an FCS defense that maybe they saw something on film or came in from last year knowing full well maybe they're not great against the rush. We don't have to pass that much. But again, you've got Booty coming in there unfamiliar with a lot of wide receivers, not a lot of game reps. In fact, no game reps with those guys yet. And he's got to set a precedent. And this is the game where they said, like you said, they don't really want to show a whole lot either. I don't know how much of that is true when you're coming in with so many new things that you've got to kind of handle. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, nothing blew me away here. They got the win. They were supposed to get the win. Jackson State is a really good FCS team. A lot of talent on that team. They've got some guys up for some awards, and it was easy to see why after what we saw on the field there Thursday night. Probably the most impressive Sunbelt performance of the week, though, right? Is that what we had this one as a star for game of the week as possibility. Early on, it lived up to expectations, at least on the Sunbelt side.
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple of Sunbelt teams that could have pulled out some wins that would have changed that. But, yeah, this is definitely the most impressive win. Coastal was just dominant, ran for about 300 yards, dominated time of possession, 40 minutes to 20 minutes pretty much. I don't know. They looked really good.
Yeah, it just didn't seem difficult, especially in that first half. Actually, like you said, with time of possession, they just absolutely controlled that clock. It was interesting. I think in the fourth quarter, both teams scored 2 touchdowns, right? Kind of went back and forth.
Not sure about that. I know that there's 5 total turnovers in the game. So scored 55 points. I turned the ball over twice, but you did create 3. And I was kind of wondering, I know Grace McCall missed some time last year for various reasons. How would it look in Tim Beck's second year with, a new cemented guy behind center? And it looked like they didn't miss a beat.
Yeah. And I think I asked him about that at media days when I was telling people Ethan Vasquez, the guy from media day on. I already knew that because when we talked about that, I said, talked about losing McCall. Ethan Vasquez has been brought up behind McCall. He's kind of a mold of the same type of player who's kind of that more runner than passer, but you can tell he's got a good passing game. He just needs to further develop it. When I asked him that question, he went off for like a 3-minute spiel before he realized, I should say something about one of the other quarterbacks. And actually, from what I've heard from some of the Coastal people that I've talked to, Kim was kind of right there, but you got to think that he's coming in trying to learn a totally new offense to him, whereas Vasco's known Beck's offense for now over a year.
Yep.
So that was always going to give him the upper hand. The familiarity with his running backs, his O-line, his wide receivers was always going to be an upper hand to Vasco. It was pretty obvious why also after watching the game as well. He should have been the guy. I mean, not saying Kim's not very good. He could be great, but I don't think he's probably as prepared as Vasco is to step in this role. And the name that people are going to love to say all season, Matthew McDoom, comes up with an interception for Coastal Carolina. And they also had, I don't know the name off. I didn't note this part down, but they also had the fumble recovery for a touchdown. That big man just would not be denied. I mean, he could have easily grabbed that ball when he got like essentially tackled towards the thigh and the knee. He could have just gone down easy. He stepped out of that thing and kept trucking all the way to the end zone. So heck of a game, heck of a start for Coastal Carolina to put up those numbers against a bowl-eligible team who went into the New Orleans Dome or Mercedes-Benz Stadium, whatever that thing's called these days, and beat the Cajuns in what was almost a de facto home game for the Cajuns in their bowl game. So
isn't that isn't it like Caesars?
It's Caesars, that's right.
Yeah, Caesars has the rights to it now.
Now the Atlanta Dome is known as the Mercedes Dome or something, right?
That is correct.
Not confusing at all,
No,
they just keep.
No, but that was a really good way for Coastal to start the season. Like you said, Jacksonville State, pretty darn good football team. At least they were last year. Not sure where they're going to end up being this year, but definitely the best Sun Belt win of the week.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that it is. It was pretty unquestioned early, and like I said, a little bit more even there towards the end. But I'm pretty sure Coastal probably let off the gas just a little bit, knowing that they don't want to. Again, just like we talked about, you don't want to show everything. You don't want to give all your secrets away at that point. Let's see. We've got,
and maybe you've talked about it. TJ, former football player. I'd like to know how much truth there is in the not showing everything too early.
Yes, me too. I don't agree with that at all. I think the whole they're not showing anything. I think that you have a lot of base package type things, and you're going to run those things over and over and over again. And then you're going to have some gadget plays for certain teams every week.
Yeah.
This is college football. So to me, this isn't the NFL where they've got nothing else going on in their lives. They can fully focus on this 130-page playbook and know all these things in and out. They got to redo this thing every week. That's not, to me, that's just not happening. I mean, you're going to run a lot of the same stuff over and over and over.
Ask TJ that on Wednesday. I'd like to hear his answer.
Yeah, I actually want to hear that too. I don't know if I've ever asked him that specifically, so I'll be really interested how much stuff they hide. And I'm thinking, okay, here's a great example. App State, ETSU. They ran that, what was it, a 47-yard kind of double jet reverse.
Yeah.
Their longest run of the game. Why did they have to break that out against ETSU? So if you're saying they're not showing everything, guys, they just showed something right there. I mean, that's not a play you want to use in that type of game. Now that helped open this game up. So it was great. But when you say, they didn't want to show everything, I don't know. This game was a struggle, I guess. Let's get into this one.
I don't think it was a struggle. I think that this is kind of exactly how you thought it would play out. Maybe people thought the score was going to be a little bit more lopsided. App had we ended up settling for a field goal when we had a touchdown that was called back by a penalty. You add that into it, it's 42-10. People probably, okay, that's fine. But I thought App started really hot. It definitely got stagnant there for a little while in the second quarter, beginning of the third, but they ended hot as well. I know Coach Clark always talks about the middle four, and we probably didn't win the middle four, but it wasn't necessary for us to win that to win the football game. I don't know. I thought it was what it should have been. Joey, first pass of the season, just like last season, throws a bomb to Horn for a touchdown, ends up with 4 total touchdowns, 326 yards through the air. Defense had, besides the one big run that we gave up, defense didn't really give up much at all. So I don't know. I was happy with the win, and on the Death Valley.
Yeah, I guess being there in person is obviously a different perspective too, and you're typically there. And thank you for the tickets. It was
I hope you guys enjoyed.
pretty nice seats you have there. We actually, not to rub it in anybody's face who was there in the other seats, but going into the north end zone where Marv's typically seated at, did not have the long wait in line to get in. So extra special thanks to you on not having to sit out there and wage through all that. But I guess what my struggle to be overly impressed with the result is, on paper, I would have said that they would have covered, which they did not. They did not cover the spread here. I would have said that they probably scored more points. And not that this 10 is bad, but I was thinking that they could have even had a shutout because of where ETSU was last year, where App was last year, and where they're both expected to kind of be this year. I just thought it might be more impressive. Now, having said that, I agree with most of the things you said. One thing that I say that I really wanted to see was kind of dominant line play.
Yeah, I'll give you
maybe
that.
More on the defensive side that was there. On the offensive side, I did not feel like we pushed their defensive line around at all. Like you said, or like we just covered, that 47-yard run by a wide receiver was our longest run of the day.
It was. Kind of what I saw was the offensive line wasn't doing a good job of getting to the second level and blocking. That's why you saw a ton of 4 to 7 yard runs where they got through the initial hole, but there wasn't anybody on a backer to kind of help them spring them free. So, yeah, I agree with you on that. Offensive line, I think they did a good job of protecting Joey. We just didn't get to the second level on run blocks. But,
yeah.
And that's going to have to get better. I mean, because
yes,
face it, even though everyone knows that Joey can sling it, we are a running program, and they are going to load the box on us. They'll take the poison if they have to over the top. But especially going into Clemson, which obviously Georgia manhandled them, but Georgia could manhandle probably the Carolina Panthers. It's going to be
most people could handle the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, it's going to be hard sledding if they can't, block a little bit better and hit the holes a little bit better as we continue to go. But hey, 1-0. Half the teams in the country would love to be 1-0.
It's true, and let's remember too. As you say, 1-0. There's a lot of people. I put this out there on social media earlier. Marv, I don't know if you saw the post that said, "Hey, here's how the whole conference fared against these other conferences that they played." Right. So a lot of reactions. Some strong. Some are like we are kind of like, I mean, it's not the most telling because it is week 1. You've got a lot of, what is it, like 5 of the teams in this conference have a brand new head coach. That's never easy. Then you've got a bunch of teams that have a new quarterback. We had, I think, almost as many teams, if not 6 or 7, that came into the slate having named a quarterback just a week or 2 ago. Obviously the teams know before that, but the public doesn't know. So it's still a question mark. These things have to get rolling and gelling together, and they're not at that point yet. So I'm not, being critical of what I saw there on the field for App State is not me saying, oh, they're going to be terrible and they can't fix it. That's not at all what I'm saying, right? I just was saying what I would have liked to have seen or maybe had expected to see a little bit better out of, right? We know the O-line play wasn't the greatest last year with what was supposed to be very good. I thought maybe addition by subtraction in a way where they don't have the pressure that they're supposed to be great this year. And because of that, they play a little bit better. Or the chemistry of these new guys just works better. Whatever. I don't know. I just expected it to be a little bit more dominant against a not very good ETSU team coming in there.
No, I'll agree with you. And Trey Lamb's a good play caller. I think their offense, even though they didn't score a lot of points, they definitely took time off the clock when they had the ball. And also, App kind of has a tendency historically to, we got up to a 17-0 lead, and it kind of felt like we instantly just wanted to go to cruise control for a second.
Yep.
And then we had to kick it back into gear. But once again, when we had to turn it on, we did. I think if you take out that probably 8-minute span where we just didn't do very well, and you get a score in there, like you take off their long score, their long touchdown run. The score looks a little bit differently, but statistically dominant. We'll take it.
Yeah, what was that 80-yard touchdown run he had? So
it was, yeah. I mean, and it was one of those just off the tackle. I don't know if we didn't have a run fit right, but I don't think he ever got touched. I mean, he ran very fast for a long time with no one around him.
Yeah, I think it looked like we kind of loaded up the box and expected a run up the gut. I think it was, I don't know if I can have it right here in front of me. It doesn't say what the yardage was. I think it was like a 2nd and 8. Okay. And I think they just said they're going to run it up the gut, try and get a couple more yards, make this 3rd and manageable type of thing. Everybody crashed down in, and like you said, he ran off tackle. and we just had too many guys commit to the inside thinking that's where they were going to go for whatever reason. I had a bad vantage point, like, being all the way across the field, looking down that way. It's kind of hard to see exactly where it starts to develop, but it was pretty obvious once he kicked outside, he wasn't going to be touched. I mean, unless he tripped himself up, which I thought he might do for a second because he was striding it out pretty big there for a minute. But that's a great player. I wouldn't be surprised to see him, possibly get, into that transfer portal. You don't like to tell kids that, but he seemed to have the talent. And also a quick note, they definitely won the possession game. 30 minutes and 30 seconds versus App State's 28 minutes and 25 seconds, which not a typical App State game in that regard.
No, but we, they had the big play. We had two big plays that kind of, get you points without taking a lot of time off the clock. Hey, I just got an alert on my phone. A Boise State running back just scored another touchdown. Sorry, I had to do it.
Ashton Genty got into the end zone again. Dude, what? All right, let me see. 20 carries, 267 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Program records.
Incredible.
Insanity.
Absolutely. And then, so we were texting last night, they bring in the true freshman 17-year-old running back who might have one of the best running back names in college football. And he runs 10 times for 120 yards and has a 46-yard touchdown reception. It was whoever got the ball in the backfield for them. I don't know if their offensive line, and I know their running backs are good, and I'm assuming their offensive line is pretty good, but I'm going to assume that Georgia Southern's run defense isn't, or at least in this game, did not play that great because that's a lot of yards.
Yeah, we had TJ Smith on, the defensive back from Georgia Southern last week, and talked all week with him and a couple others about how this Georgia Southern team defensively was hoping to shut down this offense. And part of that is, unfortunately, they did not for them. Part of that is Boise State's just that damn good. I don't think there's anybody saying, oh, Georgia Southern didn't try or nothing like that. That's a good offense. And there is a reason most people had them slipped into that G5 spot for the college football 12-team playoff, because they look the part. I mean, defensively, they need help too. Look, they allowed Georgia Southern to score 45 points on them. Yeah. I'm telling you, as soon as I got out of the app game, I went to the phone. I was watching this one.
Yeah, this was an entertaining football game. It was back and forth and wasn't over until the very end. But you're right. I mean, Georgia Southern now, this is still taking some getting used to. I know it's been a couple of years, but it threw the ball 50 times and had success with it. They played well enough on offense to win the game. Defense let them down. When you give up 650 yards, it's hard to win football games.
No kidding. Already saying Southern made it close. The win would have really helped the Sun Belt down the road. Yes.
Great.
We talked about that last week. You want to talk about the Sun Belt being, the perennial conference where the champion going to come out and be a shot at winning this college football playoff, or at least getting the spot in it. You got to win these types of games. Yeah. I mean, it's like we were all saying, that matchup was actually really good. It's an 11-point game. And again, this could be a different type of game later in the season. I don't think Georgia Southern is going to be happy with that defense. I'm sure they're going to do a lot of things to change things up after that. Partly, actually, they're probably not going to see an offense as explosive as that until they meet, actually, after what we saw from App State, they'd have to show me something more to think they're anywhere close to the Boise State level of offense. James Madison had some flashes. We'll get to their matchup, talk about that. But, a lot of the other teams in this conference probably, at least not right now, are anywhere near that point that Boise is at this point of the season. Boise was kind of loaded and known to be loaded coming in. So, insanely impressive. And, what's kind of cool here is that the quarterback who had transferred to Boise from, was it USC, I think, right? Wasn't even named the starter. So the guy who was already there from the G5 level, like, hey, guess what? They've got some talent here too. He helped his offense score 56 points. So there's a reason that kid won the start. Madsen, that's the starter's name. 280 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Not an amazing performance. Again, didn't have to be with what's gone on the ground. So, 7 TDs on the ground. You don't have to rely on your quarterback. No, and you shouldn't. But I mean, that, like you said, that Georgia Southern offense, used to be predicated on what Boise kind of did to them. Kind of interesting to see it kind of flip around, but I don't think Georgia Southern's out of this thing yet. I think that's a dangerous team right there.
Yeah, they're going to put up points. They're not going to get blown out.
No, I don't think so either. Speaking of not getting blown out in a slobber knocker, again, as this one was going on, I'm jumping back and forth as much as I can while I'm driving down the road. Trust me, I had my wife doing a lot of that for me, but it was just checking on it. Man, I thought they were going to pull it off.
This is another one of those games that the Sun Belt needs Old Dominion to win this game to kind of give the entire conference credibility as we try to hopefully push towards one of those playoff spots. This would have gone a long way, but man, 4 turnovers, 2 inside their own 10 that allowed for the only 2 touchdowns that South Carolina scored.
Yeah.
It just, they held South Carolina to less than 300 yards of offense and couldn't win the game. But 4 turnovers, 2 inside of your own 10. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Talking about that defense, Jason Henderson, man, that guy is the truth. All over the field, leading them. I guess, with the helmet communication now, it's a different aspect that they could utilize as well. It's going to only help a guy like him. But yeah, unfortunately, they had Grant Wilson coming back as pictured here as a quarterback, supplanted as the starter kind of early on. He was one of the players that didn't have a question mark coming into the season about who the guy was going to be. And yeah, he got himself into a little trouble, but still had the opportunity to take advantage of it late in the game. And then it also, like his fumble, did you see exactly where that happened at that last one?
I didn't.
Okay, so he was fighting for his life there out of his own end zone. He had gotten out barely and then fumbled like right there. I mean, I think South Carolina scored in the next play or 2.
Yeah.
So that is just a back-breaking thing. They had just, stopped South Carolina. They punted the ball to him. Again, it was down back there a little bit. There might have even been a penalty that backed him up. Again, just trying to get out of his own end zone. Didn't really have anything available with the pass rush of the Gamecocks coming right at him. Escaped the pocket. Guy just kind of swats it out of his hand, and it was just like, oh, no. You kind of knew it was going to be real unlikely after that. They did still have another opportunity or 2. I actually think – no. They didn't have one with like next to no time left because it was one of those situations where South Carolina snapped the ball back in like almost like a half punt formation with the quarterback. So because he had to waste some time before he took the knee, right? So they just barely ran out the clock, but they had one more shot before that after they went up 23-19 on them that they were making some headway, but I think that might have been another one of that was the last interception. We had the fumble and then the interception on the sequential drive.
Yeah, they had the lead at one point during the fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Old Dominion did. So, once again, that's 4 turnovers, 2 of them inside. They give the other team first and goal. That's not a recipe for a win. The South Carolina program, I'm not sure where they're headed right now. That's they haven't been good in a long time, it seems like. And that's have you ever been to a game there?
Yes, I went to the app game there.
Oh, okay. So I've been to a game there when I was in college, actually, a South Carolina Clemson game. That place can be electric. They deserve a little bit better. It's a phenomenal stadium, in my opinion. But they almost losing Old Dominion in your season opener is not the way you want to start off if you're South Carolina. And once again, missed opportunity for Old Dominion, missed opportunity for the conference.
Yeah, I think let's just talk about these last 2 games here. If Georgia Southern beats Boise State and Old Dominion beats South Carolina, everyone is talking about how good the Sun Belt is.
Yep.
And we're on the cusp of everybody's mouth with the rest of the results remaining exactly how they happened.
I agree.
It would have just been those 2. That's it. That's all we would have needed. And like we said, I mean, the South Carolina victory wouldn't even have been all that amazing in the grand scheme of it. Would have been similar to the time App beat them. They weren't very good the year App beat them. It was just the fact that you're not supposed to beat them as the group of 5, the lower team, whatever you want to say. So, yeah, I mean, it's just disappointing. Again, they get really disappointed for the ODU fans who were there probably thinking late in the game that they might have had this one, if not for just one or two little things. But yeah, Artie was saying this is a good game and oh so close. Absolutely. I mean, would have been great. Would have been the only big conference win. Yeah. P4, Core 4. I'm going to call it the Core 4 because it makes more sense. Power 4 doesn't. It's Power 5 or it's Core 4. I'm going to go with the Core 4.
How about the money bunch?
Yeah, no kidding. Jeez. Did you hear Saban's quote from game day?
Yeah, you got to make sure you pay the right people.
Oh, man, so great. I love that. I mean, people said we were going to see the real Nick Saban now that he's not a coach and everything, and we are actually seeing him, and people are right. I like him. I like him more. I never really liked him as the Alabama coach. Couple like quotes here and there that I thought he did pretty good, like being a little like dry humor-esque kind of thing in it. But man, on College Game Day, phenomenal. I like how Pat does his stuff too. I know some people don't like the antics, but he's entertaining, and I think he's helping the young crowd get involved and stay involved in game day as much as they are.
Yeah.
So, I mean, think about the crowds, man. Recently, literally, since he's been a part of the show, do you think they're going to be as big without him? I don't think they are.
I think College Game Day has such a cult following that it wouldn't make that big of an impact, to be completely honest. But I think the environment of the crowd is definitely better with McAfee there. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, I guess what I'm thinking is like when they show the clips from McAfee's show being there by itself beforehand or whatever.
Oh yeah.
You see how many kids are out there for that. It's just like, yeah, this was a smart move by ESPN to involve him, and even when the people don't like him, that brings interaction and viewership because of that. So again, genius marketing ploy at the very least for ESPN to pull off there. All right, I don't know how much there's going to be to really talk about in this one. 45 to this is the kind of performance and score I kind of expected out of App State's ETSU. Not crazy different from what they were at. It was 38-10, but this one's just a little bit more dominant against a team like Stony Brook. Again, probably just like ETSU, not great coming in from last year. I don't know of a storied Stony Brook tradition or history in football, so sorry to any of those people that might be listening to this down the line. We do know Marshall does possess all of those things. But the cool part for Marshall is they had some question marks about who the quarterback would be coming into the season, how they would perform. Braxton is the guy. Braylon Braxton is the starter here. I don't think there's going to be any doubt, especially after this performance. I don't know. Anything specific to say on a game like this, the lopsided game like this?
No, like you said, probably what you would expect with a traditional, I'm not going to say powerhouse, but like a very solid G5 program going up against a probably lower level FCS program.
Yep.
I think Marshall did answer some questions. They got to play 3 quarterbacks. They threw 5 total touchdowns. They held Stony Brook to under 250 yards of offense. It's kind of why you schedule a team like this, so you could get a lot of kids on the field and get some stuff on film and move on with the season.
Yeah, let's touch on this. So it is interesting to compare. So this App game was similar in score at the half, but Marshall was only up 17-0 at the half. So they really turned it on the second half. That's what we typically see out of these FBS, FCS games, right? The depth really helps you as you go and progress because there's not a massive difference between the ones. Usually on defense, there's a little bit more. But on offense, it's not crazy. And then once you get into the 2s and 3s, getting more reps and getting their time in there, it's becomes a little bit more evident. Yeah, they had the actually similar in the App game as well. Stony Brook actually had the ball for over 35 minutes.
Yep.
Which kind of dwarfs the possession time of Marshall, which was just over 24. So that is kind of interesting. But when Marshall has almost 550 yards of total offense, that's going to bode well for you. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, this is one of those games, probably like we've already talked about in the other one too, is like you don't learn a ton. They just did what they were supposed to, and they got some reps now, right?
Correct. Yeah, I think that's the biggest part is just give some people, those people that you're going to depend on for depth later on the season, get them some reps early, put some stuff on film, correct some things, and just move forward.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of moving forward, we're going to have to see how South Alabama wants to do that defensively. I think offensively, you score 38 points there against North Texas. I mean, North Texas puts up points. We already knew that coming in. They're a fast, up-tempo offense. They're going to snap that ball quick, get it out of their hands quick. I mean, I guess South Alabama coming into last year was supposed to be very stout defensively. They were a little bit of a letdown in that sense. Yeah. They weren't even up at the top of the conference come the end of the year. Now they're kind of rebuilding. Again, the 38 points might have been able to get it done against some other teams, but letting up 52 ain't going to do you any favors.
No, the quarterback from North Texas threw for 415 yards, had 5 total touchdowns. And like you said, they scored. They moved quickly. They scored 38 points in the second half. North Texas did. So, but defensively for South Alabama, yeah, that's not a great start. Now, bright spot, their quarterback Gio Lopez had 500 total yards. He had 432 through the year and 60. So not quite 500 yards, but 494, 4 total TDs. Jamal Pritchett, their wide receiver, 10 catches, 197 yards. So he had himself a day, but kind of like Georgia Southern, right? Like, hey, we know you're going to score points. You have a very proficient offense, but you got to be able to stop it because I know as a fan, I don't want to watch these high scoring games every week. Like, don't give me a heart attack. Let's score enough and play some defense and get the hell out of here.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Chandler Morris is the quarterback who transferred in from TCU to UNT. Yeah. So obvious, a pedigree of success and talent. So you knew that was going to be something that wasn't going to be on USA's side going into this one. Gio Lopez, though, what is 415 yards for Morris, 432 for Lopez. Yeah. Both had 3 touchdowns. It looks like Morris might have been just a tad more efficient when you go with the percentage of completions.
Yeah, but Lopez had 62 yards on the ground and a touchdown as well, which kind of gives that extra dimension of, hey, don't let me drop back in the pocket because I'll pick you apart for 432. But if you play a little bit of like a cover 4 and you drop your linebackers, I'll just run it up the middle on you guys too.
Oh, yeah. And Jamal Pritchett, I want to touch on that. I got to meet him at media days. That is a small dude. But you can see that size is not everything, especially when it comes to this fast, speedy wide receivers. I mean, we've seen it at the NFL level with Tyreek Hill not being the biggest of dude. Well, I mean, he's a pretty stout dude now, but calling him the cheetah, I think we got another one on our hands right here. I mean, just an immense talent going over there and catching the ball. Again, almost 200 yards. He only had 10 catches. It's not like he got fed the ball 15 times. Like, that's insane.
19.7 yards per catch.
Yeah. Now, the crazy stat to me out of all that is only 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a bad thing. It's just crazy to think he had 197 yards running the full length of the field twice, and then you don't end up with more than 1 touchdown. But whatever. I mean, obviously one of the most impressive performances of the week. He's going to be the top wide receiver from the conference. There's no doubt about that. I don't know anybody who got more than 197 yards. You're looking at a bunch of receivers who are over 100 barely across the board at the most, right?
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking, who wins Offensive Player of the Week, him or Lopez?
Right. Yeah, it's a good question. But, man, that is a really good question.
It's got to be one of them.
It's almost unfair when it's a quarterback against like a wideout because like the wideout gets the ball from the quarterback, so they get all the credit for that. And then if you've got the multi-talented Gio Lopez also running the ball, it's like, okay, so he gets the wide receiver stats and the running back stats. Like, come on now.
Yeah, almost 500 yards. But no, kind of going back to this, don't kind of like we talked about the opportunity to win the core 4 games or like beat the elite level group of 5 team in Boise State. You don't want to lose. They're still Conference USA, right? North Texas.
They are American this year now, actually.
Okay. All right. So Conference USA. You don't want to lose to them. For our conference to seem superior, these are games that we need to win.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree with that. And But luckily, we are 1-0 against Conference USA. It's the American who's got us at 1-1, and this is unfortunately the loss there. Jared Belk is letting us know, go Coastal Carolina. Yeah, Jared, if you find this show now, we've already talked about your chance, but we are talking about them being probably the most impressive team after week 1. So absolutely, Coastal Carolina looks like they are on a roll early on this season. Speaking of a team who is in the win column, but I don't know if you'd want to call them on a roll here. Did you see the ending of this one?
So you text me. I think I was watching James Madison Charlotte, and you're like, Arkansas State's about to lose this game. They need a miracle. And I switched it over, and 2 touchdowns not by them, but Central Arkansas scores with 55 seconds left in the game. Then Arkansas State scores with 6 seconds left in the game.
Yes, 6 seconds. I think you nailed it.
I mean, listen, a win's a win, right? Half the country wants to have that win. Half the country's got a loss right now, right?
Yep.
To have to come back against an FCS team like that, probably not the way you wanted to start, but you get the win.
Yeah, and one really important thing here, Rainer's coming in. Again, this is one of the question marks that didn't have to be answered coming in as who was going to be the starting quarterback at Arkansas State. Makes a little bit of mistake. In fact, to be honest with you, when the mistake was made, I actually thought about this right before the commentator said it. I said, why did they call a pass play? There's a couple minutes left. They're around roughly the 50, if I can remember off the top of my head. They might even been inside the Bears territory there. And they dropped Rainer back in the pocket. And protection just didn't work. I don't remember which side of the line got around there. I think if you're looking at the offense coming this way, it was the right side. Got around him pretty easily. Strips him. Pretty clear fumble and recovery by Central Arkansas. And I'm thinking, you're trying to run out the clock here. I think there was 2 minutes, maybe. It wasn't much. And you're running a pass play on like 2nd and 8. Now, if it's a 3rd and 8, you have to run a pass play. This was not a 3rd down situation. This was a 1st or 2nd down situation where they're throwing a pass play around the midfield line. It's just
a surprise.
Yeah, it just didn't work out for them. So Central Arkansas comes down, scores a heck of a touchdown. Did you say you saw that one?
Yeah, I saw that one. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, it did not look well.
I didn't see it live. I flipped to the game when you text me, and they were showing the replay.
Okay, yeah. It was like a bubble screen type pass to the running back, and it looked like it was just supposed to go to him. And he throws. The pass itself wasn't bad. The form was like, what? I don't know if it's going to be, but luckily for him, his wide receiver was wide ass open. There was no one around him. So he literally waltzed into the end zone. And I was like, oh no, they just let him score and it's going to be over. They got less than a minute left. And I'll be honest with you, I'm still questioning that touchdown at the end though. I mean, if you're talking about the letter of the law, I agree by the book, maybe that like he had it long enough. But actually there are some people that pointed out today that the book is you have to complete the catch just as in the NFL. You have to go to the ground and complete the catch. It's pretty clear he dropped the ball when he hit the ground. I'm not sure how consistently in his arm he even had the ball at any point. It looked like it was like barely holding on. I think the ground caused him to let up with it. Also, as I've said before, as an official from a different sport, obviously in soccer, but go with what the players kind of tell you. When Rucker got up after making that catch,
he didn't look like he did not look like he didn't react the way that you would if you would have just caught the game-winning touchdown.
Exactly. He never once was like pumped. He never put his hands up. You're talking about a guy with experience like him who didn't just get up, like you said, and go absolutely nuts and start telling the crowd he caught the ball. He never once made any kind of motion like that. Never once. Never even looked at the official to be like, hey, are you going to call that a catch?
Where's your hands, man? They're up in the air, right?
Never did.
And I think that was one of those where because it was – they called it a catch, correct?
They called it a catch on review. They called it a not
catch.
Catch live, which I agreed with. I said, nah. And first of all, I will say this. I didn't ever think he even had his foot down. Live, it didn't look like it ever got down to me. which I don't know what the official was calling no catch. Was it the fact that he didn't think the kid had his foot down either? Or was it the fact that he dropped the ball once he hit the ground? I'm not sure. But either way, he calls it no catch. Very clear, no catch signal. They reviewed it again. If you're looking at, does he have the ball stopped with motion in his hand and his foot down, then you can say to me that was a touchdown in that sense. If you're saying how it looked live and how he acted, I'm seeing something different.
Yeah, no, I mean, to overrule a call, it has to be like just undisputable evidence, right? And
yes,
I don't think it was that clear. I think that's one of those where you have to stick with the call.
I agree. Now, having said all that, anybody who says, "Oh, so they should have lost the game," keep in mind they scored that with 6 seconds left. So had it not been ruled a touchdown, they still would have had another opportunity to get to the end zone.
Yeah.
So you can be as upset as you want if you're a UCA fan or a fan of FCS and just wanted to see this game go that way. But that wouldn't have meant the game was over. That was not the last play of the game. It just looked like it, and you're just going to sound like it that they won almost on last play of the game type situation. Anyways, good for the conference that they did not drop a game to an FCS. We remain undefeated against the FCS so far, so job well done. The talent disparity was still obvious to me. It's just a little bit of an early season struggle. I think Arkansas State is going to be okay, but Central Arkansas always really wants that one. And again, they're for a game that doesn't quite happen every single year, it's still like really, really familiar with each other, how they run the plays, the coaches, the fan bases, all that. So, yeah. And as already said, it was a great in-state rivalry and a good matchup for the state in general. And that's, we've seen that in the state of North Carolina. These games matter. They bring excitement. They bring interest. They should keep playing these types of games. Look at the game we just got right there. So, all right. And another nail biter. Did you watch the end of this one?
Yeah. So the missed 2-point conversion. Yeah. That was a back and forth game. To be honest with you, I thought Nevada at one point was going to not run away with it, but distance themselves from Troy. And Troy fought back, just wouldn't give up. I wasn't overly impressed with either team, to be completely honest. I think Nevada has Georgia Southern this upcoming week, so it'll be interesting to see how they do. But for the conference, yeah, you'd love to see that 2-point conversion attempt be successful and see what happens in an overtime situation. But just not enough for Troy.
Yeah, I think like you said, this is it did feel like a little bit like, man, Troy's just not like got it. But what's interesting is when you look at the stats here, Nevada total yardage 393, Troy 391.
Oh, statistically, they were mirrors of one another.
Yeah, no turnovers on either side. Very clean game in that regard.
Possession was pretty even.
Yep, almost 50-50 right there. I mean, you can't. So, yeah, like you said, an overtime game, there was no better opportunity to have these two teams that were so evenly matched end up going to some extra time, but not in the cards. Now, again, this Troy team is one that I definitely wanted to focus on, and I said they were going to have a drop-off, not because I thought that they were going to be worse. They've just been so good. They lose a head coach. They lose a quarterback. They lose a lot of their good defensive players. There's no way they were going to come in, and be another championship caliber team. Yeah, that's what I was joking with the Troy boys on the West preview, and I said, "All right, now you can tell us all about your Troy team. There's 0% chance that you're going to come in here and three-peat as champion. It's just not going to happen. I mean, it's hard enough to do twice. It's hard enough to do once in this conference. It's hard to do, really hard to do twice, which they've done. So fantastic job. All the credit to them, what their culture has built there in Troy, Alabama. But it ain't happening this year. And they could get back to it. It's not going to take long for them to return. But I just don't see it happening this year. And like you said, we'll see what this Nevada team's made out to be, man. They almost beat SMU in the first week, which we know is now a new power team or core 4 representative from the ACC. So not like a huge disparity. It's not like they're going up against Georgia. So it's hard to say that you're an established power team, but they showed very well in that. They come across the country to Troy. I thought I'm still favoring Troy because they're playing at home. They've got the pedigree, the culture in place, even though they got some new guys they got to work in. I thought they'd be able just to get it done. I mean, 2 points isn't bad.
No, it was a good football game. But once again, I wasn't overly impressed now by either team. Once again, week one, a lot's going to change. I think, another football cliche, the biggest improvements between week one and week two, right? That's what they always say. So it's interesting to see how they kind of fix things moving forward. But Troy does have working for it that the West is not the East. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, they have a chance to win the West and play for a conference championship game, and you never know what happens once you get into a championship game. So,
yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting. Maybe we'll talk about it in a minute after. The 3 worst teams, as it looks right now, may all reside in the West. I think that's why people are talking about that East-West disparity. I think you've got a lot more even across the board type looks in those East teams there. Speaking of one of those West teams I'm talking about here, Southern Miss puts up a goose egg against Kentucky. Now,
Kentucky got played for 2.5 quarters.
Right, yeah. I will be honest. I watched a little bit of this throughout the first half, and I kept jumping back to other games that were closer, and then it got so delayed that I think they might have finally started back when I went to bed again.
Yeah, I forgot about the game. But here's where they were when the game was called. They'd already thrown 2 picks, and they had 5 yards rushing. Yeah. So that score probably would have been significantly worse had they allowed the additional 24 minutes to be played.
Yeah. Okay, so I didn't miss much then, actually. I did not realize it was called in the third quarter.
It's called 9 minutes to go in the third quarter. Like it's like the weather continued to suck, and I think everybody was like, we've seen enough. We've seen crazy stuff happen in sports, but I think you could see the way that game was going, and it was like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense then, because I was going to say is like I kept seeing delay. It was 20-something to nothing, obviously. And I just kept seeing delay. And I was like, well, I'm not going back to it. And then I finally was like, all right, I'm just going to go to bed because I don't think this game's going to start back up. So I won't lie. I did not check in a lot on this one, but it was unfortunately pretty clear what we were looking at there. So this is one of those ones you just go, forget it. I don't think, I mean, do you even watch film on this one?
Didn't happen.
Yeah. Just throw it out the window. Week 1 starts next week.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. So, all right, we'll move on because there's just unfortunately, not much to say on a team that put up 0 points at that point. Now, one that I thought had a chance for Georgia State to 1, cover, and 2, possibly win, especially coming into the season because of where Georgia Tech's been in recent years, and I don't know. I just don't feel that confident about Georgia Tech. Now, obviously, after the week they had against Florida State over in Dublin, and then this one here, they're pretty much solidifying where they should be. But coming into the season, I thought this was just an outside chance where Georgia State could surprise some people. New head coach, new players, really nothing for them to see on film, coming in. Was there going to be some surprise? The biggest question mark was going to be, could Georgia State's defense slow up that Georgia Tech offense? And obviously, to some extent, they actually did a reasonable job of that, really, to me, but not enough.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what to expect from Georgia Tech, like you said, coming off that just huge emotional win across the pond against a ranked team, which I guess I'm kind of undecided on how good Florida State's going to be. And I don't think Georgia Tech's a phenomenal football team. They're a good football team, but Georgia State just didn't have enough. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. I don't know what I was kind of expect. Well, what I'll say is I was impressed by the quarterback play from Georgia State, especially with all the pressure he was under from Georgia Tech's defensive line and their defense in general. I thought he played pretty well. 210 yards, 1 touchdown, 19 of 34. I mean, he didn't completely blow me away, but I was impressed, right? Because we didn't really know anything about him coming in. And Velux, I guess, is how you pronounce his last name. Again, I didn't hear it enough. Unfortunately, a lot of these times I'm watching 2 games at a time a lot. I have to mute one. So theirs actually didn't get a lot of the volume when I was watching. So I'm not exactly sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but I was impressed what I saw out of him. I think he's going to be a pretty good quarterback there at Georgia State. And then I don't think defensively I was really unimpressed with anything Georgia State did. I just think this Georgia Tech team offensive line specifically, is pretty darn good. Surprised me. I would never have put money on it coming into the season, but yeah, I think they are pretty legit. And in what I don't think is a strong ACC, I do agree with Saban. They might be the sleeper to possibly surprise a hell of a lot of people, and probably surprise a lot less people now after these first 2 weeks of the season. But good start for them.
No one's overlooking Georgia Tech now. Once again, I think they're a good team. I don't think they're a fantastic team, but they do benefit from playing in a conference that looks like it's down this year.
Yeah. Very, very true. In a conference that's also down is the SWAC. Or is Grambling in the SWAC? Let me pull this up real quick before I get that wrong. They are in the SWAC. All right. But in a conference or a team that's not down at all, the Cajuns were on fire against them early and often. Jacob Caboti, he was a running back for the Raging Cajuns over the past several years, now with the New Orleans Saints. His brother gets an interception for a touchdown in this game. They also showed a clip afterward of his brother being at the press conference to get some. I think he had his phone out recording his brother at the stage. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
pretty cool moment. One other very cool thing that I thought was cool. I mean, I don't know how it worked, but in the crowd, they only have half their stadium is able to be used. App State's been through this. Other schools have been through this. So it looks really awkward on TV.
Yeah.
But they've got that end zone full. The grass hill could be used. And the, I guess, students section or student side previously is now where everybody's at. Had a great crowd on hand. I believe it's pretty much a capacity crowd for what they are able to put in there. There was a bunch of kids in the student section with construction helmets on. Whether that was something given out to like play into the whole fact that like, hey, it's going to look a little weird and be a little strange this year. Let's just lean into it and have fun. If they gave them out, I hope that's what they did. If not, full credit to the students who went out of their way to kind of just have some kind of rallying moment for them to just say, hey, screw it. Let's just enjoy it as it is. And then on top of that, their Cajuns put on one hell of a performance, 40-10 as they open week one.
Yeah, impressive win. I kind of hate to be redundant, but what you would expect bringing in an FCS team. Quarterback Woodridge, 308, yep. 3 touchdowns. I don't think the game was ever close at any point. Good win. Way to start the season. And
I mean, Grambling didn't. Oh, go ahead.
Either clever marketing by the game day people to give the students hard hats or creativity on the student body's behalf.
I hope it's a little bit of both. I'm sure there was some other stuff that I didn't see, but when they panned out, there was at least a large swath of white construction helmets. And I don't know if they had Raging Cajun stickers on them or what, but yeah, pretty fun marketing. You see those at game day with the orange for the Home Depot stuff. So for them to have them there and possibly branded was great. Yeah, Woodridge, I mean, that was a question mark coming into the season. Who would be the starter? Pretty obvious he's going to be the guy. I did put out a prediction that a guy that goes by Lunch may be their starter by the end of the season. Not because I don't think these other quarterbacks are talented, but for whatever reason, the Cajuns always struggle to have quarterbacks that stay healthy for long periods of time, at least over the last 2 seasons. So, Lunch is a name to look out for, and they call him Lunch because he just brings his lunch box to work, Like that's
either dude's a couple pounds too heavy or he's a hard worker, one of the two.
Yeah. He's definitely not a couple pounds too heavy. He's going to be like your Levi Lewis type. I think he's a little bit bigger than Lewis, and off the top of my head, I can't remember if he's a lefty as well, like Lewis was or not. I want to say he's not, but he might be. What's interesting, the way I found out about him was one of the writers from College Football Dogs made me aware of him. He said that this kid should have won Gatorade Player of the Year, except there was some kind of kid, a little small name called Arch Manning who won it. But this kid Lunch played in a bigger classification in the state of Louisiana and put up better stats than Arch Manning. So does somebody win because of their name? I'm not saying. I'm just saying, and then this kid ends up at Louisiana and Coach Dez, as they call him down there, let me know at media days that it's hard to keep that kid off the field. He's just too talented. So we're going to see some packages that absolutely have him in it, and it would not surprise me at all if somehow he becomes the starter by the end of the season. Again, that's no mark on Woolridge. It's not saying he can't get it done, but with the health of their quarterbacks lately, you just got to be ready if that situation occurs. And I think the Cajuns are a team that can go 2 and 3 deep at the quarterback position and be just fine. So quarterback position was another question mark coming into this one, but 30-7. Marv, no surprises here, right? I mean,
I thought James Madison started off slow. Charlotte's not a good football team. They're not. Once again, new coach, new quarterback, tons of new players. I think it took them a little while to get going. 2 really big chunk plays kind of changed the path of that football game. Is it Barnett? Is that his name?
Yep.
Early flop of the year, by the way.
Yes, and without a doubt.
Super over dramatic. But he threw for 220, ran for 90, so he has 300 total yards of offense. I wasn't impressed. Just because I know how bad Charlotte is, and Charlotte can bring in any kid they want in the transfer portal. It just never seems to work out for them. Even when they tried the whole club lit thing, they just really struggled to have an identity as a program. So a program like James Madison coming in there scores probably what you would have expected, but I don't think that they completely dominated the way that I expected them to.
Yeah, I would agree. Again, maybe it's because it's week 1 and you've got a lot of new players with the possibility of getting themselves familiar with each other and their game, how Chesney wants to call the game specifically, all those things. Barnett was the leading passer as well as the leading rusher. So that was interesting when you've got a guy named Adaye. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yes.
I've got to get used to all these names. Yeah. Ayo Adaye from, I think he came from North Texas as like the nation's leading rusher, or if not number 1, he was in the top 2 or 3 for sure. And he only went for 41 yards on the night with 17 chances there. So a little surprised at that. We'll see if that kind of evens out a little or gets a little bit better as we go along. George Pettaway, a transfer from Carolina who goes over there. I thought he'd be really impressive. Only ran for 25 yards. Did get into the end zone, though, so there's a note there. So I think running back stable-wise, I'd expect them to get better if that O-line can protect. But that's kind of that same question mark I have on the App State side of things. It's got to get better for both of these teams. Again, I think both running back rooms for both James Madison and App State are going to be just fine. There's talent there. We've seen it all last year. We've seen these guys at other programs get it done. Now let's see if they can get it done at these schools they're at this point, and it all comes down to the O-line opening up those holes and making them easier to run through. So Artie says the first Gold Rush was in North Carolina. Cool logo.
I'm very
you won't get respect from Marv and I on that, but
I'm very unaware of a Gold Rush in North Carolina. I'm kind of perplexed as to where they got that logo from. Once again, maybe it's not the football team having trouble establishing a culture. Maybe it's the entire university.
Yeah. I mean, I guess historically, Yeah, I know Artie's good with his facts on here. So I guess the first Gold Rush itself was in North Carolina, but the Gold Rush uniform, to me, it didn't hit. I did not think it looked good. Like I would have just gone all the way and gone gold pants. Like if you're just going to do the gold thing, just go crazy with it. Like go full in. These logos or these uniforms we see on screen here, I thought are better than what they wore the other night. The logo, I mean, the fact that it's a pickaxe kind of works. What we say here in the Carolinas is that Charlotte Douglas International Airport, it looks more like a plane in a sea, and it like you could use it at the airport. So we like to poke fun of it for that. We poke fun at Charlotte for everything. They can't stand being classified as UNCC or UNC Charlotte. They hate it. But
UNC Concord.
UNC Concord, yeah, commuter, UNC commuter. We call them all kinds of stuff. they love to talk, and so far since they've had a football program, they haven't had much to talk about. So we love to see them down. JMU took care of business in the end, but yes, maybe some question marks early for the Dukes as they continue to roll because, like we said, Charlotte, not an impressive program overall, not a very good team yet since they've had football there on their campus. I love to poke fun at them. Nothing but fun to be made of Charlotte. All right. The last game of the week, the wrap up, Lamar goes up against Texas State, and this one surprised me. I mean, Texas State is the odds-on favorite from the Sun Belt. In most circles, it's either them or App State being the champion and moving on to possibly have a chance at the CFP, and they come out here and they beat Lamar only 34-27. Did you tune into any of this? This was on ESPN Plus, so it was harder to flip back and forth between this one. Did you turn this one on at all?
Pretty sure I fell asleep watching this game last night because if I'm mistaken, it was the nightcap. So
I think technically USM and Kentucky became the nightcap because it went so late. But yes, I think you're right. Other than that, it was this one.
Yeah, I tried to watch some of it. I'm with you. I was expecting. Everyone thought that Texas State's offense was going to come up and put up like PlayStation numbers.
Yes.
They didn't have a bad productivity game. You would have thought they would have came out and absolutely manhandled Lamar. Lamar scores 27 points in the second half. Yeah. They got in a groove and put it on it. I think I told you this before the show. Interesting stat of the week for me is in this game, there was 28 total penalties accepted for a total of 261 yards.
Ooh.
Week one.
You don't even have to look it up. That has to be the most.
That if there was another game that had more than that would blow my mind. But that's a lot. You got to clean that stuff up. And no, I was expecting to wake up and see a 45-17 or something like that.
Yes.
Just hey, maybe Lamar's really good. I don't know.
I mean, they are a Texas FCS team. We'll see what Artie has to say here. Our secondary is picked to pieces faster than KFC bucket in Lizzo's kitchen.
That's funny.
Oh man, I'm clipping this part out and putting that on the interwebs. That
man, that is funny.
That's gold. That is gold. That fans are bitterly disappointed. Maybe a 6-team win at most. See, this is the overreaction part, though. People are gonna go one way or another. Let's remember the year that Troy came back and won their first of 2 championships. Do you remember their record to start that season?
Were they 2-4?
Well, that might have been the first one. They were 0-2 to start the year. They got beat by, I think K-State was their first opponent, which K-State wasn't great that year. They got beat by K-State. They lost on the Hail Mary to App State. And then I don't think they lost a game the rest of the year. I think they went 10-0 after that.
Yeah, they should have won 11-0. App got super lucky on that Hail Mary, but
I
think they were competitive against K-State, but
they were reasonably competitive, but I think it was like a 10 or more point game. It wasn't like 3. But
at least
they didn't get
the W here. That's
right.
important.
Yeah, they got the W. You had Ishmael Mahdi go for 156 and a touchdown on the ground. We've had Mahdi on the show. Expect to see some stuff more from him in the future. We hope to have the guy right here on screen, Nash Jones, big offensive lineman who took a touchdown into the end zone in their bowl game. Hopefully he's our guest this week.
Yeah, they got a big game. Texas State's got a big game this week.
They do. That's why we're going to have him on the show as the I-35 rivalry rolls into town as UTSA comes to pay them a visit, a huge game. A lot of trash being talked, a lot of excitement in this Texas State program this year. And Artie's going to chime in. The defense is atrocious. Hobart single-handedly won this game for us with 2 amazing scores. Yes. Did you see any of that? You said you were falling asleep during this. Did you see those 2 plays he made?
I'm pretty sure I got done watching the Arkansas State Central Arkansas game, flipped over to this, and I'm sitting on the couch. I might have maybe made it 5 minutes.
Got you. So Hobart was their runaway best wide receiver last year. Coming into the season, he's expected to do that once again. And now it's really clear to see why. One play, what was impressive, wasn't going to blow you away. He's running down the sideline. There's kind of 2 guys coming in at him. He kind of just avoids the one and then just totally hurdles the other guy. Impressive. Great. The other one was like he makes – I'll describe it as best I can. I'm not going to do it justice. You need to go find this clip. I wish I could have clipped it out and put it in the show. He catches this ball, first of all, by barely keeping himself like in bounds somehow, right? Then he like pogo sticks on one leg to remain in bounds and keep his balance. Then somehow like tiptoes the rest of the 8 yards or whatever it is to get into the end zone and score a touchdown. I've never seen a play like it.
I'll find it.
Yeah. If it's not in SportsCenter's top 10 plays, also the Caden Robinson catch from the game, those two plays for an absolute fact, those people just aren't paying attention because those are two of the best plays I saw all weekend. So yeah, Hobart is legit. Ishmael Mahdi is legit. Now you got to see if McLeod can step his game up. I mean, it wasn't a bad one, 238, 3 touchdowns, only 1 interception. Like you said, maybe Lamar is just that good of an FCS team. So maybe no slouch there. But again, this is also week 1. There's a lot that you're going to be able to learn and put into practice going into week 2. You better believe Texas State's going to come with everything they've got for UTSA as they want to get them on the board. We've also got Julian Harden chiming in. Georgia State had a decent showing against a good Georgia Tech team. The mistakes are correctable. Yeah, and I don't think you're going to see a team as line dominant as Georgia Tech again real soon. Maybe not throughout the rest of the season if Georgia Tech keeps up that great offensive and defensive line play that they just showed this weekend. Marv, did you see this slide that we've got in here as well? This Outlook slide that we're trying,
I haven't, but let me take a quick look.
Okay, well, while you take a look, I'll explain what you're looking at. So this is the Sun Belt Conference, the Fun Belt Conference. We're trying to do little different things to kind of have fun with it this year. So this isn't any order of prediction or outcome of any specific game. This is kind of your weather outlook, which you see here. You're sunny, you're partly cloudy, you're cloudy and stormy or rainy, whatever you want to call it there. This was the one before the season, just to give a general idea of maybe kind of what fans' expectations or desired outcomes are or hopes are. So we've got App State, Texas State, JMU, all pretty easily in that sunny one. Arkansas State, I think a lot of people think that they're going to end up pretty well, maybe in the Arkansas State realm more than nationally. But I went ahead and kind of put them in there because I didn't know if they fully fell into that cloudy one, the partly cloudy one, I should say. The partly cloudy one, I think the Cajuns have pretty realistic hopes, but they'd be certainly okay with a bowl game, at least 7-8 wins, they'd probably be okay with. Troy, again, reasonable expectations. Coastal Carolina, 8-5 last year. I think they can expect a little bit of improvement. I don't know if their fan base is really thinking they got a shot to go undefeated or anything like that. Maybe after this first game, that's changed. Georgia Southern, again, they had the bad end to last season. They were hoping to come in and win this first game against Boise. Maybe if they did that, the expectations again would change. And then we've got all the teams that are probably at the very best thinking that they'd end up in a bowl game, or at least hoping to end up in a bowl game. And then those 3 over there to the far right, Southern Miss, Georgia State, ULM, hoping for just 3-4 wins probably gets them, feeling decent about the season as it goes on. I don't know. You think any of those wrong or misplaced, especially after this week?
Going into the season, no.
Okay.
After this week, you could probably flip-flop Coastal and Texas State. But no, going into the season, I think the fan bases on the left probably had the highest expectations. Actually, maybe JMU might have been slid over because just too many unknowns.
True.
But yeah, I think going into the season, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons also had Texas State over there is not only were expectations high, but they also have one of the easiest schedules laid out for them. And they also they don't even leave the state of Texas for anything but a few Sun Belt games. Almost everything somehow is in their de facto 7 home games because their one game against Sam Houston State is in NRG Stadium in Houston. So that's, again, essentially a home game.
That'd be like at Planet Bank of America.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Especially with where expectations are. Chris Bolton's chiming in. Surprised Georgia Southern, didn't throw an interception, at least from what I saw. I didn't see one. I can go double check that. I thought there may have been one.
I didn't think he did. Here, I got it pulled up right now.
I think you're right. It's just showing 2 touchdowns on this. Yep, no interceptions for French.
They did lose a fumble, though.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if what we saw from French last year and somewhat limited play is what he's going to look like this year, I mean, I thought he was a talented quarterback. I mean, we saw that one really, really well-placed ball in the back, I guess, was it kind of the back corner of the end zone there against App State. It was not a game Georgia Southern wants to remember, but that play stuck out to me. I was like, wow, that was a really nicely thrown ball. You know, that kid could have a chance here, and he's looking like the part so far, especially when they put up 45. That's right, 45 points in that first game. So, yeah, I think that about does it, man. I don't know if you got anything else that really sticks out. If you want to talk about anything else.
No, just there's a lot of big games. I'm just kind of pulling up the schedule for this week. So obviously, at plays Clemson. Troy Memphis is a big game. UTSA Texas State, big game. Marshall Virginia Tech. ECU ODU. Georgia Southern Nevada. Tulsa Arkansas State. UAB ULM. No rest for the weary here in the Sun Belt Conference. There's a lot of good games. I think you'll kind of start to. I don't think 1 week is a big enough sample size to really kind of put your arms around the team and say whether they're going to be this or that. I think after week 2, week 3, then as we get into conference play, you'll really be able to kind of make those assumptions. But it's a lot of good games, quality opponents coming up this week.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Brad Swisher, a Marshall fan, says, hard to tell how good Marshall is at this point. Stony Brook was bad, really bad. One thing for sure, our quarterback play is much better than the dismal performance we had last year. Yeah, but I mean, I don't think it was terrible last year. I mean, there was points where it was. I mean, you guys started off the season 4-0. So, or was it 3-0 with a chance to go 4-0 at NC State, I think, actually. So it might have been 3-0 with a chance to go 4-0. But, yeah, Chris Bolton, real good show. Appreciate the content, man. We appreciate you stopping by, Chris. Like I said, we hope to get bigger and better at this as the season goes on. This was the first iteration of a wrap-up show. We knew we couldn't wait till Wednesday to go through what had happened the previous week and then also preview the week coming up. So hopefully this helps kind of make each show a little bit shorter. This first one ran a little long. Again, it was a lot less structure than what we'd probably typically go after. I had very little show notes. Graphics were kind of just using what we had from the previous week. But, hey, it works. The focus is we talk, you guys share thoughts and opinions. Yeah. Yeah, and I had typed mine up on Word, so that's why if you see me looking over here, I'm referencing my stuff over on this screen. But yeah, we appreciate this. This is what the fun is about, and I'm sure once this out of conference stuff slows down and the in conference stuff starts rolling in, we're going to see a lot less niceties shared around here, and it's going to be even more fun. So thank you very much for everyone who tuned in. If you're checking this out afterward, we appreciate it. And until Wednesday, we will see you guys later.
See ya.